Hey, so now we're going to transition into our Advent wreath that we're going to be using to kind of symbolize and have a visual representation of the second coming of Christ, but a reminder of the importance of Christ's first coming, his incarnation. So, one of the things that we miss out on as New Testament believers, which isn't a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but we really miss out on really understanding and processing the role of longing and expectation inside of our religion. We look forward to Christ's second coming. We look forward to the New Jerusalem, but that's not necessarily something that is a forefront piece. That was a forefront piece of the Jewish religion, the Jewish Christian transition. The new covenant was a big deal. The Messiah was a big deal. Every year there was a sacrifice that was made. An animal blood sacrifice was made for the people. Throughout the year, individuals had to make sacrifices based on the sins that they may have committed. The new covenant, the death and resurrection of Christ is a big, big deal. We don't necessarily feel that. However, I would argue that the last 8 months have been the most crucial piece to American Christianity that we've experienced in a long time. It's been very evident to see where people's priorities are regarding their Christian faith. And so during this season, I want you to embrace the awkward, embrace the uncomfortable, embrace the longing for something new and something different. But what I want you to see during this season is that Christ is the true and full answer to that. So, we're going to be using an Advent wreath. We're going to be using some candles, some greenery to signify some specific things. Each denomination, religious tradition have different spins on this. So what you see from me may not be what you see at another church or from another video or whatever. I want to talk through a few things real quick. So first, the candles. The candles are typically purple or they're blue. The purple candles signify penitence, repentance, sorrow, as well as royalty. So this is a solemn experience. Not quite as sad, not quite as solemn as Lent, but some denominations, some traditions, may even utilize a fasting period during the first couple weeks of Advent. The other color used is blue. What blue signifies hope or expectation. Looking forward to something, but also recognizing the brokenness that this world experiences. Some traditions will also throw in a pink candle for the third week. That pink candle represents the joy week. Also, different denominations, different religious traditions will utilize a different symbolism, different pattern for the different candles. The candles don't mean anything. The candle color doesn't really mean anything. But it's supposed to be a visual symbol, and it goes along with the liturgical calendar. I find a lot of value and help in liturgy and Christian church history traditions. Those are very helpful for me. Some people do not like that. They have too much of a requirement, too much of a not Protestant enough, But for me personally, I really appreciate those historic church traditions. We also see the greenery around the candle. This signifies newness, new life, but also life and greenness inside of cold, dark winter. In reality, we have not experienced quite as a universally cold and dark season as what we have currently experienced. So what you'll notice about our candles is they're white. The majority of Advent candles, the fifth week, therefore the fifth candle that's put out is going to be a white candle, and that represents Christ. Always represents Christ. It's usually bigger and taller than all the other candles, and it's a different color. What we're going to be doing this season is I want to make sure that Christ is the focus. We're not just looking at, oh, look at how good God is, or look at how cute God is. We're looking at what Christ has done. Okay, I want to make sure that that's clear. So we're going to be using all white. So those are some of the things of the Advent thing. It means nothing, but it's a good representation. It's a good visual reminder of some specific things that Christ has done and Christ will continue to do for us. Another thing that I want you to make sure that you realize as we continue to go throughout the weeks, notice how the light grows brighter. That is not just on accident. The light grows brighter as we get closer and closer to Christmas, closer and closer to the incarnation. So for this year, we're going to be looking at 4 things. We're going to be looking at God's faithfulness. We're going to be looking at hope, joy, and love. As I said, different churches may use their liturgical calendar to come up with the verses, but we're going to be looking at faithfulness, hope, joy, and love. So I am a music person. I really enjoy music. Music speaks and connects with me well. So I was originally going to use the intro riff to Advent's revival song for the video, but decided against that because most people would probably find that super duper off-putting. But I want to encourage you. If music is something that is like helpful to you, listening to the melody, listening to the words, that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to incorporate into this devotional, I guess. So I want to encourage you. Listen to Advent Revival, the band Advent, the song Revival. It is one of the most angry musically songs I've ever heard in my life. Lyrically, it is beautiful. It really, in the way that I see it, it really highlights that tension between the now but not yet, recognizing that the things in the world aren't good, aren't great, but we know that there is something, we know that there is someone that is good, that is great. So, for Advent season, listen to the band Advent and the song Revival. It's a song that speaks to me. So, today we're going to be looking at faithfulness, God's faithfulness. We're going to be reading from Psalm chapter 100. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving, and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him, bless his name. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. So God's faithfulness is what we're going to be looking at today. God was faithful to provide the new covenant. God was faithful to provide the Messiah. God was faithful to provide a fixer of relationships between man and man and man and God. That was something that is all throughout the Old Testament. We see glimpses of the Messiah. We see glimpses of the new covenant all throughout the Old Testament. And we have seen that fulfilled. But we also recognize that we live in a very broken world, and that has been made very evident and very clear these past 8 months. So, first, how has God been faithful to you in your lifetime and also in the last 8 months? That may be very uncomfortable. That may be very difficult to answer. But how has God been faithful to you? For me personally, God has kept me relatively healthy. God has provided food in my refrigerator through these past 8 months. God has provided for me rest in the past 8 months. I would say that though I have been busy and though I have been doing, I would say, more new things that have been more taxing on my mind, I would say that God has provided more rest for me in the last 8 months than the last 8 years. God has been good. have grown to expect certain things. We have grown to be very comfortable, and if we don't get X, Y, and Z, then something is not right. During this season, the little things have become much more valuable in my mind. So, I ask again, how has God been faithful to you this past 8 months and this past year as a whole and in your lifetime? How has God been faithful? In what we just looked at in 2 Thessalonians, we see Paul encourage again God's faithfulness. It says that people are faithless. Some men are faithless, but God is faithful. We also see Paul being very clear in 1st and 2nd Thessalonians and his other letters that it is God is the one that does the saving. It is God is the one that provides the power to go about our life as believers. But it is also, we get to work with him. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. We don't have to grunt this out on our own. We don't have to lift this heavy load of both Christianity and living and navigating this world. We have a helper. We have an advocate. And that is Christ. And that is what this season is about. As I said, music speaks to me. Music helps me. So the hymn that I want to leave you with today, I'm not going to play it in the music in this video. I want to encourage you to find it on your own because of copyright issues and such. But I want to encourage you, look up the song, He Will Hold Me Fast. It is a newer hymn that speaks to me. One of my favorite newer hymns. I want to encourage you, listen to He Will Hold Me Fast. Even though we fail, even though the world around us is dark, Christ is there to hold us fast. Christ is faithful. God was faithful to send his Son for us. Christ is faithful to guide, lead, and protect us today. And that will get us through the next however long this is. But also, that also has a sense of expectation. How is it that God's current faithfulness to you, how will that change the way that you live your life? Today, tomorrow, and when the world is back to whatever normal looks like. God is faithful. Christ is faithful. God has been faithful, Christ is faithful, and Christ will be faithful. Process that. I want to encourage you, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, reach out to me. Next week we're going to be looking at the hope that is provided. And so now we are going to light our first candle, the candle of faithfulness.